Howdy, guys, and welcome to night 77 of Big Brother Season 23's overnight feed recaps. Welcome to Cliff Notes from outside the Big Brother house, and welcome to the first day of fall. Now, a little conspiracy theory that I wanted to throw out at y'all about fall and time in the Big Brother house. It normally, during the summertime, it was so hot in that Big Brother house, lights everywhere. It was miserable trying to sleep. It was so warm. But suddenly, about this time, as we got into middle of September while I was inside the Big Brother house, it started getting cold. And not just because of outside. I truly believe that that Big Brother may have turned down the thermostat just a little bit towards the end of the season so that we would all be wearing hoodies and make everything look a little bit more like fall time for all the viewers out there. I'm going to be watching for this last week or so and see if the house guests inside are a little bit more bundled up. I've certainly seen a lot more people wrapped up in blankets and everything. So we'll watch that and see if maybe the temperatures have gone down a little bit inside the house. All right, let's talk about what's going on in Big Brother. First of all, as a refresher, Xavier is still the HOH and heading to Final Three. Kylan remains a target. The only real question that we've got right now is whether Big D can be trusted to actually have the veto power or have the veto and cast the vote to send Kylan out the door, or is he going to chicken out and they're going to need to let Azah make that decision instead? The plan right now is still let Big D have that power, make that vote, and he's saying he'll go through it, and I think he will. So we've got that. Other than that, we're just waiting until Thursday so we can get to the Final Three, get the competitions, and see who's going to be the final two. We had some conversations last night, but it was the same old conversations we've been having for the last couple of days. Hence the background here. Yeah, it was a little slow. We'll talk about some of the things that happened, but no earth-shattering developments overnight. All right. So with that being said, let's talk about what we saw last night. First of all, as we come into the early evening, we see Xavier upstairs in the HOH room wrapped up in a blanket. Remember, maybe it's getting a little cold in there. Xavier is wrapped up in a blanket upstairs. He's studying his days, his events, his house guests, getting ready for the memory competition that we know will make up some part of the Final Three competitions. We get a lot of studying happen last night at different stages with different house guests. So Xavier is upstairs studying a little bit. Meanwhile, Azah is downstairs sleeping in her yacht room bed. Lots of sleeping going on yesterday throughout the day and a little bit into the evening as well. Now, normally, Big Brother's very strict. No sleeping in that house except during permitted times. But during this last week or so, I think they understand it's kind of boring. They lost the backyard, so now they're all trapped inside. So Big Brother's a little bit more slack this last week or two of the season. They were with us. They are with this season as well. Just as an FYI, for those who may not know, the sleeping rules inside the Big Brother house during a Big Brother season. You can't go to bed before 10 p.m. Once 10 o'clock comes, you're free to go to bed, but you can't go to sleep before 10 o'clock. You have to sleep in a bed, and you have to get up whenever the lights come on in the morning, which varied anywhere from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the morning, typically, based on what activities maybe were taking place that day, how many activities were taking place, etc. So between 10 and say 8 o'clock or so, you were free to sleep. We rarely did, but those were the sleeping rules inside the Big Brother house. But again, they're a little slack right now, and can't say I blame them or I'm too upset about it either. All right, we've got Kylan and Xavier at one point in the kitchen going over memory events, days, house guests again, etc. It is smart for Xavier to study with Kylan. First of all, it makes Kylan feel a little more secure, a little more comfortable that maybe he's not going home if he and Xavier are still buddied up, bromancing together, working on memory comp practice together. So it helps from that standpoint. The other thing, Xavier isn't worried about Kylan learning his days and events better and better through practice, because he assumes that Kylan's not going to have any need for those practices since he's not going to be here for Final Three competition. So yeah, really smart for Xavier to be working with Kylan specifically. And Kylan's pretty good about knowing those days and events and everything else. I've watched him practice before. He's got it figured out to a large degree. Most of them do. I've been pretty impressed with some of these house guests and how well they know their events. All right, we've got Big D and Azah and Xavier talking. in the living room. Kylan is in the diary room doing a session, so he's out of the picture. So the other three are talking. Xavier is talking about the Thursday night eviction, the veto ceremony. He's saying, look, I don't want to blindside Kylan. I'd just soon not do it if I could get away with it. But we have to because of who Kylan is. And he says, yeah, we all know Kylan is going to fight to the absolute very end if he thinks he's going home. I don't want him fighting like that. I don't want him feeling like he just needs to talk to us up until the very last second. Just because of who Kylan is, we're going to have to blindside him, not let him find out that he's going home until we actually get to the live show itself. At that point, he'll find out when he's evicted, but we don't need to be telling him ahead of time. I really think a blindside helps Xavier, and I've talked about it before. I think, first of all, it keeps pressure off of Big D. If Kylan thinks that he's still safe, he's not going to be putting as much pressure on Big D, which Xavier obviously likes because he's worried about Big D flipping anyway. I still think that Xavier may try to plead a little bit of ignorance in a goodbye message and say, I thought Big D was going to keep you, and it turns out it didn't. Maybe not. Maybe he'll come clean during the goodbye message. Even if he comes clean, I think it goes better towards him kind of massaging the relationship with Kylan and ensuring that maybe he still has Kylan's vote. Remember, Kylan's talked all about respect for the game and wanting the two strongest to go forward. I would expect he would probably throw Xavier his vote in a jury based on that alone, unless he really turns bitter. But anyway, so I think it's smart for Xavier to want to blindside him. Big D is all for it. Even though it benefits Xavier, Big D certainly is more than willing to keep it secret until last minute so he doesn't have Kylan in there begging and pleading and doing everything that Kylan would do to try to survive. So again, the plan right now is for Kylan not to find out until the live show. Ozza saying that I'm on the block. I'm kind of leaving it to y'all. I don't have any say on it. So Kylan should leave me alone. I'm not too worried about it. But she is saying that she's going to wear her pretty eviction dress, the dress that she had planned to win if she was evicted from the house. I think it's a yellow dress or something. So she's going to wear that to make it look like she's anticipating getting sent home on Thursday night. And I think it's Big D that says, yeah, trying to keep things regular. We'll start doing one-on-one just tomorrow and things like that. And Xavier said, no more one-on-ones. We're not doing that this week. I wonder what Kylan thinks about that. But Xavier doesn't want people talking in these little groups. Well, there's only 4. Everything's a little group at this point. But he doesn't want them talking one-on-ones and potentially getting Kylan the opportunity to get once more into Big D's ear or anything like that. So he wants to shut down. He wants to put the nix on the one-on-ones. And I don't blame him. I don't think anyone blames him. All right. Big D, again, worrying that he's the one that has to vote Kylan out. He's worried about Kylan's jury vote. And if he votes him out, is Kylan not going to give Big D his jury vote? Or at least he wants Ozza and Xavier to think that he's going to lose Kylan's jury vote if he votes him out the door. It's smart, but downplay your capability to win this thing so that hopefully Xavier and Ozza, either one would be willing to take you to the final 2 if you get the chance. Ozza, again, volunteering to be the veto, saying, hey, Big D, if you don't want to do it, let me take the veto power. She says she is foaming at the mouth to send out Kylan. So yet again, for another evening, we got Big D complaining about him having to be the vote that sends Kylan out the door. Ozza, once again, volunteering to take over that power if Big D doesn't want it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Groundhog Day. All right, we've got lots of talk about what Big D is going to say in his eviction speech on Thursday night. He's going to talk about how Ozza has been there since the beginning, but men come and go, and he may say something about Kylan at least being partially responsible for Big D being on the block 3 times. They're working a few things out. That doesn't really matter. Lots of non-game talk downstairs a little bit later. They're talking about music and movies, just a lot of non-game related topics. Kylan's got the GoPro camera, so he's filming everyone. And they're just basically trying to bide the time until 10 o'clock comes along. Big D does, while the GoPro cameras are going, Big D's talking. He's complaining a little bit about Tiffany, saying, look, Tiffany, she was doing well, but she got selfish, and her winning that last HOH really hurt her. He's saying if she'd listened to me, things would have been different. Yeah, I'm sure Tiffany's big regret at the end of the season, Big D, is going to be that she didn't listen to you enough in terms of game strategy and everything else. Of course, having said that, Big D stands a good chance of making final two. So we can't be complaining too much about whatever strategy Big D has used to get to where he's going. But the difference is Big D gets the final two chair, and that's it for Big D. He's not going anywhere beyond that. Tiffany, if she made it to a final two chair, she very well could be walking out the door with a $750,000 check. All right, Xavier finally goes to bed. What time is it? About 10:30 or so. Xavier goes to bed. He turns the lights off. Not only does he turn the lights off, but he also locks the door. Obviously, he doesn't want anyone coming in the middle of the night trying to have more discussions with him, more talk about gameplay, game strategy. The door's locked to everyone. I have a feeling it was kind of maybe targeted towards Kylan more than anyone else, but Xavier's got the door locked. I know during my season when I was HOH, I don't think I ever locked the door because I didn't want anyone to ever think that I was in there conspiring with other people or that they weren't welcome to come in and visit. And I had very much an open door policy. Of course, there were 13 people in the house when I was HOH. When you only have 3 other people, it's a little bit different situation. But Xavier's made it pretty clear in his conversations throughout the evening and locking the door. He's tired of the discussions. He's just like the rest of us watching. He's just ready for Thursday night. Get this stuff over with. The sooner the better. Let's move on to the next stage of the game, the final 3. Xavier's called it a night. He's in bed. Big D is talking to Kylan just a little bit. Kylan's gotten called to the DR again. When there's only 4 people in the house, you spend a lot of time in the DR because Big Brother only has so many people to draw their content from. So you spend a lot of time that last week going into the DR, and we're seeing that. So Kylan's getting ready to go into the DR again, and Big D saying, hey, ask Big Brother if we're going to be doing anything today, Wednesday. Let him know. What's going on? Yeah, we want to know that as well. So Kylan goes in. He comes out later and says, yeah, they wouldn't tell me anything. So we still don't know. Could the veto be tonight? Could there be a luxury competition? It'd be a good time for a luxury competition, but we don't know if there's going to be anything happening today other than just another rehash of all the same conversations. All right, Ozzy and Big D are talking about being happy to making it to Final Four, hopefully making it just a little bit further along. They're happy. They're kind of reminiscing about the season just a little bit. There's some discussion about award money that they're going to get. Big D saying, no matter what happens at this point, I'm walking away with a little. I'm not walking out empty-handed. So they talk a little bit about some award money and all that before the feed's cut because they're not supposed to be talking too much about that. But it cuts away. Later, we've got some more conversations. Big D and Ozzy talking. Big D saying he would have called people out more if it wasn't for the cameras always on and around. Yeah, that's the way Big Brother works. He's saying Ozzy was cursing a lot today. And she's talking about saying, you know what? I stand up for myself when I have to. I think this is more reference to some of the friction that was caused between Big D and Ozzy when he suggested that maybe she hadn't done as much as he had to get where they are right now. Of course, Ozzy's the comp beast compared to Big D's comp record, right? But he was complaining a little bit about that, and I think Ozzy's saying, I stand up for myself when I have to. Seems like they're okay with each other. That stuff blew over a little bit. Doesn't mean they forgot about it, but it feels like they're probably over it. Big D once again psyching himself to vote out Kylan, saying that he's going to do it. He has to do it. It's just the way it is. He just has to stay focused on it. Yeah, I think he will. Ozzy talking about the final 3, the final 2. She's telling Big D, she's saying, you're a lock for final 2. I'm going to keep you. I'll keep you if I have the decision at the very end. And she said, and I think Xavier will keep you as well. So Big D, you're a lock. I think they're probably right. I see Big D in a final 2. Who would have thought at the beginning of this season, right? All right. We've also got Ozzy saying that if she wasn't on the block, she would be much more sympathetic to Big D's constant complaining and nervousness about having to vote Kylan out the door. She said, but since I'm on the block, it's tough for me to really be sympathetic to your issues, Big D, because if you aren't voting Kylan out, you're voting me out. Which does make you wonder, why is Big D talking so much about this in front of Ozzy, knowing that she is the other option? For Big D to say, God, I'll do it, but it kills me that I have to do it. Nah, in front of Ozzy, you say, if it was anyone else, maybe I'd have a hard time. But since you're on the block versus Kylan, obviously I'm sending Kylan out the door. I would make it sound like there's absolutely no concern, no issue, no second guessing whatsoever. But Big D, he trusts, he feels comfortable with Ozza, so he's happy to spill everything that's going on in his mind, even though it just makes her that much more nervous. Ozza, sorry, Ozza talking to Big D said that she thinks she can win this game. Again, next, if she's sitting in the final two chair, she feels like she can win this game against anyone and next to anyone. She could potentially win Big Brother if she can just make it to the final two. Ozza obviously hasn't taken the red pill this season. Big D, he's saying, look, if it's you and Xavier sitting in those final two chairs, Ozza, I think it's going to be a pretty close vote. Big D is much out of touch with reality in this season as Ozza is. Now, if Ozza's sitting in a chair next to Xavier, I don't think it's a close vote. I think Xavier takes this thing walking away. If Big D's in the chair next to Xavier, Xavier's walking away with unanimous vote. I don't know. Big D probably, maybe he'd get Brittany's vote. I mean, even that'd be a little tough. Xavier, if he's in a final two chair, he's walking out with the check. We all know that, right? If it's Big D versus Ozza, what a heck of a scenario that would be, right? They'll jury members. They made what a tough decision to make between those two. That would be almost worth that scenario just to see what the jury members do and see the discussions that take place between them in that case. So I don't know that we'll get that, but what an entertaining turn of events that would be. All right, and then finally I said Big D saying Ozza and Xavier. All right, Ozza and Xavier would be a close fight. Yeah, we talked about that. And that's it, guys. Lights out by 1:30 or so. And again, nothing that we haven't already heard for the past couple of nights. The same concerns, the same worries, the same plans. We may get it again tonight. Who knows? There may be some incredible turn of events. And if it is, I'll be here tomorrow to talk about it. If it isn't, I'll still be here tomorrow to talk about it either way. So, guys, y'all have a fantastic Wednesday. Tomorrow night is the eviction episode. I'm excited for that. Tonight, we do have an episode of Big Brother. It's going to be delayed just a little bit because we also have the 2-hour premiere of Survivor. I'm going to be doing recaps of Survivor as well. So make sure you check out the YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to it already, please subscribe so you get notifications as soon as I drop any of these episodes. But guys, y'all have a fantastic Wednesday. I will talk to y'all tomorrow morning. Cheers, my friends. SKD 143. Bye, guys.